Have you ever told a woman she's beautiful, and she just smiled politely, said thanks, and moved on? You thought it would make her heart skip a beat. Instead, it vanished into thin air, like you never said anything special at all. Here's the truth that no one tells you. Most compliments don't work. Not because they're wrong, but because they're too common. Think about it. She's heard "you're beautiful" 100 times, from co-workers, strangers on the street, even from guys she didn't want to hear it from. So when you say it, it just blends into the noise, generic, predictable, empty. It's like giving someone a birthday card that says "Happy Birthday" and nothing else. It's nice, but it doesn't touch the heart, because it doesn't see them. Real compliments, the kind that stick in her memory for days, maybe even years, feel different. They come from a place of deep attention, of noticing. It's not about her looks. It's about the way she makes people feel, the way she lights up when she talks about something she loves, the way her voice softens when she talks about her childhood dog, or how she pauses before she speaks, like her words actually matter. Those are the compliments that make her feel seen. And most men never learned how to give them. It's not your fault. No one taught us how. We were told to be nice, to say "you look great." But no one ever showed us how to connect with someone on a level deeper than surface beauty. In this video, we're not just talking about flirting. We're talking about emotional presence, real attention, the kind of words that make someone stop, breathe, and remember that moment for a long, long time. So let me ask you, have you ever given a compliment that truly stopped someone in their tracks? Or are you still stuck saying what everyone else says, hoping it'll land? Let's change that. Let's talk about the kind of compliment that actually works. The rare kind. The kind that makes her heart say, "This guy sees me." Let me ask you something you've probably never considered. What if the most powerful compliment is the one you're not supposed to say? Not because it's rude or offensive, but because it slips under the radar. It doesn't flatter her appearance. It doesn't praise what everyone else sees. Instead, it reaches deeper into the part of her that rarely gets touched, her essence. We call them forbidden compliments, not because they break rules, but because they bypass the scripts. Let me explain. Most compliments orbit the same safe zone. You're gorgeous. You have beautiful eyes. Your smile is amazing. Now, there's nothing wrong with those, but let's be honest, they're everywhere. She's heard them from guys at bars, in DMs, even from co-workers. So they don't land. They don't linger. But when you say something like, "The way you look when you're deep in thought," it's like your mind disappears into another world. That's rare. Or, "You carry silence like it's a language, and somehow it says more than most people ever do." That's different. That's not a line from a rom-com. That's not about her body, it's about her being, and here's the key. These kinds of compliments don't just make her feel admired. They make her feel seen. Seen in a way that disarms her ego and awakens her curiosity. Who is this man who noticed that about me? Why do I feel like he knows me better than people I've known for years? That's emotional intimacy, without even touching. That's obsession, without trying too hard. But here's the catch. You can't fake this. You can't memorize lines and expect them to work, because the power of a forbidden compliment doesn't lie in the words. It lies in your presence, your attention, your grounded energy that comes not from needing her, but from seeing her. Attraction isn't about how often you show up, or how many gifts you give. It's about how deeply you notice, how calmly you witness her. So next time you're with a woman, don't reach for the obvious. Let silence stretch a little longer. Watch what others miss. And when the moment's right, say what only you could have noticed. That's not just a compliment, that's a mirror. And in that mirror, she'll see herself, maybe for the first time in a long time. Have you ever said something to someone and then watched them freeze for a second, not because they were offended, but because they weren't used to being seen that way? That's what happens when you say, "There's something about the way you think." It's rare. It's not about beauty, not about style. It's not the kind of compliment she can brush off with a polite thanks, because it goes deeper. It speaks to her mind, not her mirror. Most women, no matter how intelligent, are constantly praised for how they look. The shape of their eyes, their outfit, their smile. and after a while it all blends into background noise. Pleasant, but predictable. But when you compliment her thinking, the way her ideas connect, the way her logic flows, or how she makes sense of the world, and something shifts, it's unexpected. It interrupts the script. Suddenly, she's not just a woman being admired, she's a human being being understood. She might pause, look at you, and in that pause, a door opens. She starts replaying your words in her mind. What did he see in me that made him say that? Do I really think differently? Has anyone ever told me that before? And just like that, you've created mystery. Not by withholding, but by perceiving. Here's what makes this compliment so powerful. You're not putting her on a pedestal. You're not acting like a fan cheering for her beauty. You're holding up a mirror and saying, I see something unique in you that goes beyond what most people ever notice, and that's rare, because being seen for your intellect, especially as a woman in a world that's obsessed with appearance, hits different. It's not about ego, it's about resonance. And here's the thing, you don't need a PhD to give this kind of compliment. You just need to notice the way she solves a problem, the way she challenges assumptions, or maybe it's how she asks questions that others are too afraid to ask. Next time you're in conversation, don't just nod and smile. Listen for what makes her mind tick. And when you find it, name it. Not loudly, not like a performance, but like a quiet recognition. That's what makes her pause. That's what makes her remember you. Because in that moment, you're not trying to impress her. You're showing her that she already impresses you in a way that most people never even notice. And that is unforgettable. Let's be honest. We live in a world where most people feel like they have to wear a mask just to get through the day, where vulnerability is seen as weakness and being real is often mistaken for being naive. So when you look someone in the eye and say, you feel safe to be around, not because you're quiet, but because you're real. You're not just giving a compliment, you're offering recognition in a world that rarely pauses long enough to truly see someone. Think about how powerful that is. You're not praising her silence. You're not romanticizing passiveness. You're acknowledging something far deeper, her emotional presence, her groundedness, that sense of peace she carries not because she hides who she is, but because she doesn't. This kind of compliment hits differently because it flips the usual script. So often we're taught to prove ourselves trustworthy, to signal that we are safe. But this says, you make others feel safe because you're authentic, because you don't wear armor. And that is rare. Suddenly you're not trying to seduce her. You're meeting her with emotional maturity, with calm masculine presence. And that energy, grounded, confident, non-needy, creates a very different kind of chemistry. One based not on tension, but on trust. And here's the thing. Emotional safety is sacred, especially for women, because in a judgmental, performative world, finding someone who feels emotionally safe is like finding shade in a desert. She doesn't have to explain herself. She doesn't have to shrink. She can exhale around you. That's what makes this compliment so powerful. It's not about what she shows the world. It's about what she doesn't have to hide around you. And when you say it, genuinely, without expectation, you become someone she remembers. Not because you gave her butterflies, but because you gave her something better. Permission to be herself. So the next time you're in a conversation that's starting to go deeper, and you feel that moment where the energy softens and she lets down a little guard, say it, let her know. You feel safe to be around, not because you're quiet, but because you're real. And watch what happens. You've probably heard this line before. You're not like everyone else. Sounds sweet, right? But let's be honest. Most of the time it's just empty flattery. Thrown around too casually, too quickly, like background noise in a crowded room. But when it's said the right way, it can stop time. Picture this. You're in the middle of a quiet moment with her. The conversation has slowed. You're both a little more present, a little more open. You look at her. Hold the silence just long enough. Then say, slowly, deliberately, you're not like everyone else, and I don't mean that lightly. Now that lands. Because here's the truth. What you say matters, but how you say it. That's where the real impact lies. Eye contact. Stillness. A low, calm voice that carries weight. You're not rushing, you're not trying to impress. You're reflecting something you genuinely feel. And when she hears those words, said like that, something inside her shifts. Because, in that moment, you're framing her reality. You're telling her, I've seen average, I've seen surface, I've seen masks and mirrors, but you're beyond that. There's something about you that doesn't fit the mold, and I see it. Do you realize how rare that is? Most people go through life being compared, categorized, filtered through tired labels. Hot or not, loud or shy, smart or sweet. So when someone looks at you and says, really says, that you're not like everyone else, without trying to charm or seduce, that's not just a compliment. That's a mirror of identity. She'll start seeing herself differently. She'll wonder what you see that others missed. And in that wonder, curiosity becomes connection. And connection becomes obsession. But let's be clear, this only works when it's true. You can't fake presence, you can't fake sincerity. So don't say it to every woman you meet. Say it when it hits you, when you notice something about her rhythm, her humor, her insight, something that feels genuinely rare, because if she is different, she already knows it. She just wants to know if you see it too. And when you show her that you do, not through big gestures or constant praise, but through a single sentence delivered with quiet conviction, you become unforgettable. So next, time the moment is right and you feel it in your chest. Say it like you mean it. You're not like everyone else, and I don't mean that lightly. Then let the silence do the rest. So let's talk about why these compliments work, and why most others don't. It's not about the words, it's not about being poetic or clever. It's about how you say them, the tone, the calm behind your voice, the way you let a sentence breathe, instead of rushing to fill silence with more words. Because silence, when it's grounded and sincere, carries more weight than 1,000 empty praises. You see, most men are trying too hard. They over-explain, they over-talk, they throw out compliment after compliment like darts, hoping something sticks. But when everything is emphasized, nothing feels meaningful. It starts to sound like noise. Rare men don't try to impress. They observe, they notice details others overlook. And when they speak, they do it with precision, not too much, just enough. And here's where the shift happens. When you deliver a compliment with calm presence, you bypass all the usual defenses. She doesn't feel like she's being sold something. She doesn't feel like you're trying to win her over. She feels seen, not for how she looks, not for how well she performs the role the world expects of her, but for something deeper, her essence. And in a world where most people feel invisible unless they're entertaining or attractive, being seen for your essence is a rare, unforgettable experience. Here's the paradox. You don't need many words to leave a lasting impact. In fact, the fewer words you use, the more attention each one gets. So when you say something like, you feel safe to be around, not because you're quiet, but because you're real, and you say it slowly with sincerity, it hits different. She pauses. She reflects. Because it's not just a compliment, it's a moment of stillness. In a world of noise, that's the power, not in flattery, but in the restraint. Not in what you say, but in how deeply you mean it. So the next time you want to express something meaningful, don't rush. Let silence do half the work. Let your words come from grounded awareness, not need. And speak only when you truly see something worth saying. That's not game, that's presence, and presence is unforgettable. Let's end where it all began. Not with a technique, not with a line, but with something far more powerful. Your presence. Everything we've talked about, these so-called forbidden compliments, they're not tricks, they're not pickup lines. They're not part of some performance routine to get attention. They're reflections. Reflections that come from a man who is aware, not reactive. A man who doesn't speak to be liked, but speaks because he sees something worth naming. And that right there is the paradox. The more you chase approval, the more invisible you become. The more you try to impress, the more you fade into the noise. But when you slow down, when you get still, when you actually see someone and speak to the part of them that's been waiting to be seen, that's when everything changes. Because here's what women remember. Not the guy who tried the hardest, not the guy who gave the most compliments, but the man whose presence made her question how deeply she's ever been understood before. That's the kind of man you want to be. Not the performer, not the pleaser, but the mirror. The one who doesn't shine a spotlight, but instead reflects her essence back to her so clearly that she forgets everyone else for a moment. This is where magnetic attraction is born. From truth. From stillness, from emotional mastery. Not from being loud, not from being alpha, but from being real. If you've ever felt like you're saying all the right things but still being forgotten, this is your invitation to stop performing and start showing up differently. You don't need better lines, you need better presence. So take a breath, turn down the volume, let go of trying to win. Instead, master your presence, own your calm, and speak like someone who doesn't need to be liked, only remembered, because when you operate from that energy, you don't chase obsession, you become it. If this speaks to you, this is what we dive into on this channel. Stoic Paradox. We talk about emotional mastery, self-leadership, clarity, still power. So if you're ready to stop performing and start leading, in love, in life, in presence, subscribe. This isn't about being louder, it's about becoming deeper. If this message resonated with you, even just one sentence, then this space is for you. We're not building a channel just for views. We're building a quiet movement, a space for men who lead from stillness, who speak with depth, who choose clarity over chaos. If that's the kind of growth you seek in your presence, your relationships, and your mindset, subscribe to Stoic Heart Daily. Every click, every like, every comment, it's not just support, it's fuel. To keep creating this kind of work, to keep going deeper together. Thank you for being here, and remember, you don't need to be louder to be remembered. You just need to be real.